Well, a professor at the University of Connecticut is arguing that Donald Trump's election victory comes down to one thing: racism. One of his upcoming lectures is titled "Make America White Again: The Racial Reasoning of American Nationalism," and in it, Professor Matthew Huey will argue that modern America is built on a bedrock of core racial assumptions. Those assumptions include the belief that, quote, whiteness is under attack in America and that non-whites are fundamentally dysfunctional. Trump's election, he argues, was a result, and we're quoting now, of a social, political, and economic commitment to white supremacy. Professor Huey joins us now from New York. Professor, thanks for coming on.
Thanks so much. I'm disappointed you're not wearing the bow tie.
I know. Had I known you'd be sporting one, we could match.
Well, I had to do something to reclaim it from all those years you had it.
So tell me, how exactly, I mean, this was, I've heard people say this, but sort of offhandedly, like, I hate the result, it must have been the racists who did this. But you're making an academic study of this, and you're saying that white supremacy caused Trump's election. So if you could just briefly define white supremacy, because I've never heard anybody do that, and explain how this works.
So first, what I mean by white supremacy is both a social, political, economic commitment to the promotion of people who pass as white. And when we look at the history of the nation for the past 240 years, we see that as immigrants have come to the country and claimed whiteness and been enveloped into the fold of whiteness, that they've done very well in this country. And they have, in large part, outpaced and outmeasured other racial groups due to a series of advantages that have been given to them. So that's, in part, what I mean by white supremacy.
Okay. And how did that result in Trump's victory?
I'm sorry, say again?
How did white supremacy cause Trump to win? Because with respect, I don't think the numbers suggest that's true, but I'd like to hear your version.
Right, well, I don't argue that white supremacy alone caused Trump to win, but I say that it's a huge factor in his victory, for the same reason that 44 out of the 45 presidents of the United States have been white men. That's not a coincidence. That's a pretty startling fact. Right? So it's not just white supremacy, but it's gender dynamics, it's heteronormativity, it's capitalism, it's lots of these things that have led to that type of dominance.
Is it a little strange? Okay, I think I'm familiar with your argument then. I just want to make sure I was. Mitt Romney got more white support than Donald Trump got. Is he a white supremacist? That doesn't really fit into your theory, does it? Why would Mitt Romney, who is less, I'm sure from your perspective, less racially inflammatory than Donald Trump, get more white support than Trump did?
Well, for me, it's not about Mitt Romney or Donald Trump or any one particular person. Again, when you asked me for my definition, I said it was a social and political and economic system. It's not about one particular person. Now, different politicians can appeal to various racialized arguments, as I think Trump has done at times, as Mitt Romney has done at times, and some Democrats have done at times. It's a palpable device, and it works large part of the time to propel people into political positions of power.
So we've had, here's the main problem with your theory, is from what I can tell. So for the last 50 years, the country's been totally transformed by immigration since the '65 Immigration Act. And we've admitted about 60 million immigrants into this country legally in 50 years. That's an awful lot in a country of 325 million or whatever it is. It's a lot of people. Totally changed the demographic balance of the country. Only 12% of them came from Europe. Why would a country based on and committed to the perpetuation of white supremacy let in 60 million people, only 12% of whom are from Europe? Seems a little weird, no?
No, not weird at all. I mean, your point makes sense if you don't think about it. What instead is happening today is the same as forced immigration from slavery. We brought in lots of slaves to the United States that outpaced a lot of European immigrants under white supremacy. I mean, the demographics, the majority-minority demographics you're referencing don't have anything to do with power dynamics, and that's what I'm discussing.
No, but I get, right. If you're discussing power dynamics, I mean, I guess the obvious difference between slavery and our current immigration regimen is this is voluntary, that wasn't. We have non-white peoples clamoring to get into America. If you were to say everyone who is a passport holder on the continent of Africa can come here, what percentage do you think would? Which would be a little strange if it was really a white supremacist country, that they would want to come here or that we'd allow them. Like,
well,
something
immigration
else is going on,
has ebbed and flowed, and you used the word clamoring. So that hasn't actually been the case in many years, and immigration has rose and fallen and so forth. Take immigration from Mexico, which is often a hot button political topic. That's actually fallen over recent years. So
no, actually,
to say that people are clamoring to come in is just not true, and it's just empirically not verifiable.
Wrong. No, actually, our immigration levels are set by the federal government, by the Congress, and they've remained the same. So I'm just saying that it doesn't ebb and flow, actually. Illegal immigration may ebb and flow, but legal immigration doesn't. and it's overwhelmingly non-white. So why, again, would a white supremacist country allow that to happen? I mean, in 1965, 84% of the country was white. 2015, 62%. That's a massive change in 50 years. Why would white supremacists allow that to happen?
Well, white supremacists need the help now, don't they? They need people to do the work that they don't want to do themselves. Just as I referenced slavery, just as I referenced, any historical period such as Jim Crow or the Black Codes, or any nation for that sake that has a dominant racial ethnic group, you're going to have a racial underclass. Having a large racial underclass in no way undermines the fact that there is a racial underclass. That's just absurd.
But it's a democracy in which the majority chooses the government and the way of life. And so we know as a demographic matter that it's going to be a majority non-white country soon. That was a decision made by white people because it's a majority white country. And they're voluntarily allowing the country to become non-white, and no one's yelling about it or whatever. I mean, you can, whatever you think of that, that's not the behavior of a white supremacist country, is it?
Well, I think it is. And since I study that is the behavior of a white supremacist country. And you also fail to treat race as a variable that changes over time. So 100 years ago, the Irish, Italians, other groups that we now think of as white didn't count as white. And it would be absurd to think that what we mean and how we think about whiteness today will remain the same 100 years from now.
I think actually you're factually wrong on that, on the Irish question.
Not.
I mean, we don't have time to debate that. I think you are. But whatever. But the point is,
you can read books on it. I've written quite a few.
Okay. Look, we're admitting, you're still not answering the question. We're admitting millions of people from Africa and Latin America.
As we are from Europe.
If this were a white supremacist, no, we're relatively few from Europe, actually. If this were, why wouldn't we just let in everyone from Scandinavia or Finland or Western Europe or New Zealand? I mean, right?
So I've answered this question 3 times. So the point is people are pushed in or pulled into different nations for economic reasons, political reasons, what have you. And the United States trades on using immigrants to do labor that the dominant class often doesn't want to do. And that's no different than a lot of westernized nations who operate on a white supremacist value.
Okay, but some of them become, I know, boy, you don't get challenged much, I guess, in college, but a lot of them become rich, or some percentage of them do.
But you're not bringing facts here. I understand this is Fox, but I mean, you got to bring some truth to the table here. Come on.
Funny. It's funny when I guess when you work, do you have tenure, by the way?
I do.
So like nothing you say, no matter how silly, can ever get you fired. Is that true?
Oh, there are plenty of things that could get me fired, but I'm good at my job.
Okay. Well, I guess we just disagree. But I appreciate your coming on to explain your position. Thanks a lot.
Thanks so much. Take care.